On this podcast, we talk to equestrian sculptor Emma Tate. She talks to us about her riding career, her accomplishments as an artist, and her plans for the future. Her work was previously featured at the World Equestrian Games and at the Dutch Masters. You can see Emma's sculptures on her Instagram, Emma Tate Ceramics, or in several magazines, including Bit Magazine and Chronicle of the Horse.
It's so cool to think that we're talking to you all the way from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. That's amazing to me.
This is how my mom has sustained me living over here. She's really wasn't thrilled when my 6-month trip turned into 10 years. So the fact that we can video chat is our way of making it work. So it's so cool how we can, just clearly understand one another through just chatting over the phone.
Where are you originally from? I'm just wondering.
I'm from Syracuse, New York.
Okay, just wondered. Interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you make that move? Because you were also in Australia, right? And then...
Wow.
I did a semester abroad in Australia in 2010. So, I kind of went to school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet, but I knew I wanted to study abroad. So I basically went to school to study abroad, but an expensive study abroad trip basically, but
can imagine.
It worked out nicely. It was still a really great experience. But that was my senior year of school. And then in between school and here, I lived in Rochester, New York, where I was riding and doing some art and just living with a friend. And then the woman who I was riding with, she's a family friend and also a great horsewoman. And she had a friend in the Netherlands who was looking for a working student assistant. So I was just in a time in my life where I was ready to go anywhere, especially here, because I was just wanting to continue riding. And so I thought I wanted to get a horse and continue my dressage career. And, that went awry a little bit, but it still was really nice to get an experience with a trainer over here. But I came over for, within a couple months of chatting to the trainer here, we arranged, I think I left, like 2 months later or something. It was July 2013, or June 2013. And I came over for like 6 months to a year experience, and here I am.
So you start, you do dressage, you said your interest, that's your, how did you get started with horses like at an earlier age, or did you, or did you come into it, like later in your teens, or? I
did. I was right from the get-go. My dad is a blacksmith, and my mom trains dressage as well. So we have a little horsey family. I'm an only child, but I kind of was born into the horse gene.
Yes, you were.
So and that never goes away. So
no.
So I was really lucky just to have the opportunity or just the resources for the horses, because sometimes if your family isn't involved, it's really hard to figure it out, because there's just one of the more expensive sports for sure. But and not to when you have an understanding from your family to know what it takes, that's really nice way to get started. So I got started really right away. I was around the horses. We had a farm just down the road from our house, who they're kind of like grandparents to me. And they, it was a small, I think maybe 7 to 10 horses. And I had a pony at the time, and they built a little stall on wheels, and we just would push him out of the way.
How cute. That is darling. Isn't that cute?
What's that?
That's so cute. That's darling.
Yeah. So, they made it work for me, which was really nice. And then my parents also purchased a horse that they, he was a Dutch warm blood, but they had purchased him in Canada, I believe. And he, when I was just born, so we grew up together. We had him until he was 27. And so my mom trained him, and then I was able to ride him in junior and young rider championships. And it was just he was really the like sole, the reason why I think dressage was just such a big part of my life in horses, because he was just a really special horse, that one of a kind horse that is in your life. And I had him early, so I was lucky in a way, but hopefully I'll have another horse like him at some point. But
yes,
he was really what brought our family together in the horse world, I have to say.
That's really, that's amazing how horses can do that. And it's sometimes just
totally.
one horse. You know, you're lucky if you get one, let alone if another one does come along. But I understand that, you know, very well, what you're saying, you know, so that's pretty cool.
So what did you learn from your parents? Your dad was a blacksmith and your mom is a dressage trainer. Did you like either one of those better than the other, or did you just do your own thing?
That's, I think we were a good team in that way, because kind of coming back to the sport being financially, you know, unfriendly sometimes, we were really great in that my dad kind of kept our horse down. My mom, you know, knew how to train. And then she wasn't crazy about showing. So luckily I liked the showing aspect of it. So, so I was really interested in what my dad did. And what's interesting now is that I find myself like the metalsmith, like the actual sculpture work of it, I would be more interested in now.
Yeah.
That's neat.
But the training, like further into my career, I was able to do some teaching and some clinics too. And I really loved that part of it, just to be able to share the feeling of, you know, or try to share the feeling of what I was feeling up on the horse, and just getting to work with all different types of horses and riders. So I would have to say, I think I more enjoyed that part of it, but I respected the part that my dad did, because that's such a big, you know, the feet are your horse basically. So I really respect that, knowing how every horse is a little different, and you know, it's like putting on a pair of sneakers. It's not one size fits all for sure. So
well, you're an athlete and an artist. And did your creativity start at a young age? Did you start like even drawing, or how did that begin for you?
Yeah, also, now looking back on it, I don't think I would have. I realize now I was really artsy when I was younger. I maybe didn't realize just how much until now, but my mom also is a painter and a drawer, so I think I guess I'm a replica of my parents at this point. They both were quite creative, so I think I really enjoyed drawing, and in school I took art, and even in university, when I didn't think I was going to carry out an art degree or a career in art, I took an art class each semester just to kind of, I just liked having that included in the mix. I think it helped get through each semester. Those classes seem to be the hardest classes.
So you didn't go to school for art. You weren't an art major. You just were taking art classes.
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of a part of like me finding my identity a little bit. Well, I think I changed my major like 3 times. I ended up in the end getting a health sports science degree, which is so random, but I got one. And then, and it was nice because I think it took me at first, I think I was just a normal bio degree. I can't even remember now, but yeah, in the end I got like a sports science degree. And then I just took the art classes thinking, oh, these are nice. You know, it's nice to just think in a different way and do some creating. But it wasn't until I came back from studying abroad, I had 1 more semester to go. So it was my senior year. And one of my best friends at school was a ceramics major. And she said she knew that I had taken art classes throughout my time there, and said they had room in their figure sculpting class. And that's not something I had tried before. I did like a little bit in high school, but nothing to, you know, make me realize that I really liked it. So right away we did a self-portrait of ourselves. I found it not easy, but I found like, oh wow, I really like working with the clay. And then my second sculpture was half of a life-size horse.
Oh, that's like crazy.
Okay, I think I like this.
That's crazy.
I went for it. yeah. So then I was like, wow, this is actually something I really enjoy. The teacher who taught the class was really awesome because he, you don't always get teachers that you click with, but this person, especially with ceramics, there's a lot of technique that comes with ceramic, but there's also, you have to also give yourself space too to be creative and just kind of do it the way you want to do it sometimes. And he was really good about that. He let you, he was there to help, because I had such a big hole in my education with ceramic. I didn't really know anything, any of the fundamentals. But he was okay with that. And he just let me, experiment. And then along the way, he would teach me how to do each stage. And I think that has actually set up my foundation till today, because I wouldn't have had the confidence to really make anything big or really go for it if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
So,
God bless the teachers, right? That special teacher. I had a teacher in school too, same thing, that really brought out like writing. True. And I always think of her, Mrs. Hutchinson. I'll never forget her name. But I mean, they open up something in you, and then you take off, and you just grow from there, and you're always thankful to them. So God bless the teachers.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And just having somebody that's motivated about what they're doing helps you also get excited about it, even if, you're new to this situation or, so I was really grateful to him and my friends for getting me into the class. That's what kicked it off.
So how did you start your business then?
Well, that's a good the business side of things. Oh my gosh, that's always the challenge, is the business side of things. But to be honest, I started it. So when I moved to Amsterdam after the year, I was working with the trainer. I ended up moving. I had a horse as well here, whom in the end I sold because I knew I was still kind of trying to find my identity and what I wanted to do. So I took a little break from riding, moved to Amsterdam. And within that time, I had a lot of random jobs, just like working at a retail, working at a cafe, just kind of trying to get my bearings. And then another job opportunity came up that was like not party, but event planning, which I had never done before. I don't know how they thought I was going to be okay for that job. But, I somehow got the job. And but I needed to be self-employed. So they said, you have to go sign up for a business. So even to this day, it's just, I went there. I went to here it's called the KVK, which is where you set up a self-employment. And you had to fill out this sheet. And it, of course, says, like, what's your business name and what are you going to be doing? And I didn't know either of those things. So they were like, so you're setting up a business and you don't know what it's going to be. Like, right. Yes. So I also somehow was able to set up a business, and they said, well, when you can come back to us and fill in the description. And so basically I got at least I got like the number that you needed to be self-employed so that I could do this job for 3 months or something. And then after working at another the studio space, there's so much involved here, but long story short, I found a studio space to rent when I first got to Amsterdam, thinking, the art side always kind of kept me grounded. So once I started working for a few months again, getting back into the clay, I realized, my boyfriend then, now husband, he was noticing. He said, well, it seems like you're good at this and you've been doing it. So why don't you start your business doing art? And for whatever reason, I don't think all the years that I've been doing art, I don't think I ever thought of it as an actual, what I'd be actually doing. So it really was him that was like, just go for it. You have to do it 100% until you really know if it's going to work. And so from that day, said, okay, I filled in my description and said, I'm a ceramic artist.
You've gone from like athlete to artist to entrepreneur now. Now we're getting you're going right along. So but that's the way entrepreneurs start. It's from an idea. It's really awesome. But yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so true. You just have to once you find your niche, it takes a lot of, just experimenting and investigating until finally you're like, yeah, okay, I think this is it. And so just kind of one thing led to another, and you don't even know what the stepping stones are going to be until you look back. You're like, those are so random, but they got me to where I am today. So it's okay.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So did you have an idea of how you were going to even present this or sell this, or did you start with different, we have, like little shows here or something, or
my sister started painting, and she just started painting every day, and then she decided, I think this is going to, turn into something, and she paints watercolor, and it's been turned into something amazing, so did it kind of go that route, or how did you?
So cool. It's right. Like once you spend time doing something like that and you think, I have a little collection of something, maybe someone will like this.
Yeah, it turned into a business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's true. That definitely, it got to the point where I was like, that's where the whole business sense, you have to start being everyone in your business, which is difficult when you don't know, you're marketing, you're the admin person, you're for the promotion, you're a little bit of everyone, and the accountant, which is the worst part.
Yes.
But so basically I thought, okay, well, now I have, at the time I was making this certain series of pieces, I guess you could say that I had a certain style, and I had maybe like 10 to 15 pieces or something that I had finished. And then, I was like, now what? What do I do with these? Because I can't just keep hauling them around with me.
Right.
And luckily, that's what's so great about the Netherlands, is that it's a small country, but they have a lot of equine events. And they, at the time, and I had some background in being able to go to these events, and had acquired some just different contacts in the equine world over here. Luckily, at the time when I was riding, my trainer and now friend, but she had this really great horse and was doing a lot of really cool shows. So I got to kind of go around and get that experience of being a groom and just kind of trucking around and seeing these cool events going on. And so I think, where did I go then? I think I had just gone to watch, actually, at the time then I was riding at this small farm just north of Amsterdam, because a friend who I met here had horses there. And so somehow I finagled my way into getting to ride there a little bit, and which was so nice. And we went to one of the Hanks curing, the stallion shows here. And I said, I would really love to show my work here. They have it's a big indoor event. They have a lot of different shopping stalls, and it's kind of like a 2-in-1 where people go and shop a little, watch horses.
Yes.
It's a dressage at Devon. I feel like that's kind of my. I love that show, and it was kind of like that vibe. And then so she goes, I know the event manager, and so I was like, well, that's awesome. Can I talk to her? So I was just kind of through, saying what I was, you have to just tell other people what your wishes are, because you never know how they can help you.
Right.
So then she got me into the indoor Brabant event, which is in March. It's a really great event in 's-Hertogenbosch, which is where a lot of the elite dressage and jumper riders go. I think it's one of the World Cup events. So it's to make, so they are competing for placement at the World Cup eventually. But so it's a nice event. A lot of people go there. They have a lot of really nice displays, different artists, shop vendors and such. So I asked if this is after a lot of people were kind of giving me advice, like, well, I remember going and walking through the VIP area and they needed art there. Why don't you ask if you can put your art there? And so I did, and they said, oh yeah, that's great. You can put your art into our VIP entrance. And
wow.
That was like my first big exhibition.
How exciting.
And, it's just one of those.
You had to be so
it wasn't,
excited.
I got asked. I kind of, really had to pitch for it, but it ended up being really the kickoff to my career at the time. And it gave me so much experience. And I, just reaching out for help as well, getting my stuff there, realizing what it takes to set up your items.
Right. There's a lot of work.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of work
what it
you
takes,
don't know.
To speak to everybody. Yeah.
When it's just
I was
you.
so exhausted.
When it's just you, it's a lot. And then you realize how much you can and can't do. You have to figure that out, and then how to gauge yourself for the next one. And it kind of goes from there. Can I ask you this too? The thing that, amazes me with like people as creative as you are, there's something inside that is creative, that's like stirs inside of you, and then out of that comes this creation that's just, unbelievable. And how do you explain that to somebody, like somebody that's aspiring to do their art or whatever? You have it. It makes you so happy. You're almost like in bliss. When you do something, there's no time. That's when it's really good,
true.
I think, But how did that come through what you're doing now? You're there, you're starting to show your pieces, and were you getting more inspired in a different way, or do you feel like that was always in you and it was just born and then here it is, now you put it out there?
I think in a way it's always been there, because I like to think that I like to think that the horses originally bring out that motivation and kind of hard work ethic, but then, you're able to really, I think most of my talents derive from just the horses from the beginning.
Your passion.
My passion. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And now when I'm able to make these pieces, you're right. Like there is the time definitely just can go. You don't even know. You think, I've been here for an hour, and it could be 5. Sometimes it's crazy. But when you're in a great workflow and you think you have something in your head that you're envisioning, and then you're able to actually use your hands to make it come to life. I think that's really a special feeling for sure.
It's very fulfilling, isn't it? How do you explain that to someone?
So fulfilling.
Except go try it, because when you do, you find out how fulfilling it is. It makes such a difference in your life.
And I would say don't think that it's going to happen the first time either, because it took me, a few, during the class, I think that was a big realization where quickly I found out I liked to do that. But then when I took time off and came back to it, it took me a little while to believe in myself again, because I was thinking, I thought I was good at this. And then, but you have to, I also was not making horses originally. So, I'm not going to be as passionate about making foals as I am horses I would say just, if it's something you like, you just have to try a few, keep trying several times, because it's not always going to be the first time that light bulb moment, is happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other question I would have is, coming into a business and you're doing every part of the business yourself, what is your, what would you tell people that are starting something? Like, how did you know how to price your items? How did you know how to market your items? What did you just have a lot of contacts and networking, or did you go to specific people?
I feel like that's something I'm still working on.
Yeah.
It's like a never ending process, because in the beginning I was not confident in pricing my items at all. And you very often underprice yourself because you think, oh, well, I think twice, even when somebody first asked, oh, well, I'd like to buy this. And I was like, oh my God, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
That's true about most artists,
and you just think,
Right.
And you think, well, what do you want to pay for it?
Yeah.
Like, you tell me, I wasn't really prepared. Until, once I realized, I can't remember now who I was talking to, but just a fellow artist. And they were saying, this is your career. This is what you're making money from. So you can't be bashful. Anyone else who's doing a job gets money in return. And that's how you can't think of I think that's what's hard about saying you're an artist, because so many people won't take that career seriously. Yes. And even for myself, it took me a little while to take myself seriously and to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I am passionate about it. I'm going to do the best job I can for somebody. So in return, you have to feel good about how, what you're getting money wise. So it's still to this day so awkward, but
I think people don't realize that like the price of a piece of work is all of the hours that you put into it, all of the preparation that you did. Like, it's not just creating this thing. It's like all of the background behind it, all of the time it took, the money for how much it was to like fire the piece, like all of that. There's so many hours that go into one piece.
Yes. And I think like that's also a good point, is this particular medium, the clay, like working with the clay, has a lot of steps and stages. And not to downplay, painters and drawers, because I follow I think they're amazing as well in their own way, but there's just extra stuff that you have to do for you have to really. You get to a certain point where you've made this piece and then you're not even sure if it's going to make it.
Yeah.
So just because the kiln has a mind of its own, and sometimes, luckily, I think I've figured out an understanding with the kiln, but yeah, there's just a lot of. Sometimes you have to explain that too, but and even if you don't, I think setting the price and then being confident about. Knowing exactly what you just said, all of those different stages that go into it, and being able to say to a client, like, this is what it takes, and for them to also appreciate what it takes. Now I'm getting better at that. Whereas in the beginning, it's just, selling yourself is awkward, and you have to just get used to standing up for what you're making, basically. But it's still sometimes an issue, and the pricing. I do like pricing of materials and hours, but you can only really approximate hours from the beginning, because usually I'll add a few at the end, because it's always the case. You never know exactly how long it's going to take, basically, because that's creativity.
Can you tell us? Can you tell us about your style, so that the people listening will be able to know, or what kind of a style do you go with? I see your pieces behind you, but give us a little bit of an idea, and also I'd love to know how far your pieces have gone. That's always fun to know how far away have your pieces gone. So tell us about that too, please.
Okay. My style started with, I don't know if, I have one here. I'm not sure if you can see them in the window.
Oh, okay.
But this kind of stack style, where I've noticed myself as an artist, and in some of my everyday life, I'm more of a type A person that, likes to have control of like all of the stages of the art process. But I also wanted to learn how to let go and how to let the piece develop in its own way as well. So I really liked this. I would make a piece looking more realistic as a whole, and then at the end I would cut it into pieces, and then I put it back together, and that really was out of my control in a way, because you would stack them back together and they would make their own shape. And then it would be more of an abstract piece. Okay. And then I could perfect the lines. So at least I had that. I was like, okay, well, I can perfect the lines, and that's really satisfying, but the piece itself has a little bit more of a story. Okay. And so I started with, and I did a whole bunch of those types of pieces that were not whole, I guess. Well, I fired them as a whole piece, but I would put them back together in pieces beforehand. And I still do that sometimes, where I'll have like a slice in one of my pieces, but I now lately have been doing more wall pieces, and those I also try to have little separate, a lot of times I make the hooves or the legs or part of the piece a little separate from the whole body. And that's still, I think my style is making sure that there's still a little bit of movement, so that it's not structured just the way I want it. At the end, I still have to play around with it, and then it kind of takes on a life of its own. So I always try to leave room for that, to let it surprise me a little bit.
Nice.
At the end.
That's fun. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mostly use a white clay, a fine white clay. And then once it's fired, I really love just the raw fired piece. It's kind of an off-white, but then it gives me room to also play around with some color too, quite easily, because the clay will take, whether I use glaze or paint in the end, it takes on the color really easily, or more nicely than darker colors or darker clays.
Nice.
And a little of the process is I will usually sketch something first. Well, maybe I should say usually I will sketch something that no one else can really make out what it is. And then in my mind, at least I have something on paper, but then I'll sculpt the piece. And then I have to hollow it, or make sure that that it's the same thickness all the way around, so that in the kiln it fires okay and there's no cracks, and it can dry at a consistent rate. Then it will dry, depending on if it's a wall piece or a 3D sculpture. Then I make sure that there's the appropriate back or base at the bottom, so that it can stand or hang appropriately afterwards. And gosh, there's a lot. I'm trying to. I hope I don't.
So many processes.
And then after it's dry, it dries completely bone dry. You have to make sure that it's bone dry before it goes into the kiln. And then you fire it at my pieces I do around 1,000 degrees, so Celsius, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. And it's actually just they call it stoneware, but it's just below stoneware, but it basically makes it very strong,
beautiful,
but also still a little bit porous, so that it can take on some glaze in case I choose to glaze it. Many times when my pieces are bigger than the kiln, though, so I have to put them back together with alternate materials afterwards. So I use actually a car adhesive, and it keeps car parts together, so then hopefully it'll keep ceramic together. And then once it's out of the kiln and I either put it back together, or I choose if I would like to add color or not. And and then I think it either goes to somebody, or it sits in my studio and waits for me to figure out what to do with it.
What's the furthest distance that someone has purchased from you?
Let me think. It's really cool to see now where all of my items have gone. I think it has to be either LA or Australia, but I think both of them in either direction are.
So all over, just all over.
All over. Yes. Yeah, I've been meaning to. There's an artist that I follow, and she has a really cool part on her website that when somebody purchases something, it also says where they are, and it has a little map. And so you can see where they go. And I'm like, oh, how do you do that? I need to do that. It's really neat now to know that. And, these types of things can live on and on past when I'm, still alive. So you think, wow, I've now scattered some of my, a piece of myself around the world in some way. It's quite cool.
What do you feel?
And it shows you how many equine lovers are just everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you feel was your biggest accomplishment as an artist?
At this point, I think in general, just continuing on, even when it took several years to believe that I could do this. Just maybe you're asking maybe about a project that was the turning point, which I also have one of those. But in general, I think now when I can just see how far I've come, because it's not often that you think, I should maybe think about that more, because of course you're always thinking all the things you haven't done yet. But I think it's just the years where I was like, okay, I have this art business, is this going to go anywhere? But you just keep making what you want to make, and a person here and a person there are interested and ask you to make something for them, and then all of a sudden it develops, and it just goes to show you just have to keep doing what you really love to do, and you're going to be good at it at some point because you love it.
One of the people that my husband and I met along the way was John Lyons, and a trainer here. And years ago, we just said, it's what you've done is just so unbelievable. And he brought up a good point, that I think most people, when they're doing something for a time, he said, oh yes, like a 20-year overnight success, people think, right? It takes so long to get there, but you get there. And that's the thing. I think most people don't see the background of it and so forth too, that how long it takes. And but I had one other question, just one other question. Do you have people that request for you to do a specific thing? Because sometimes artists come to the place of where they realize I can do things for different people, and then it's like, no, I have my style and my talent. I don't want to cut into that, because it's always somebody's expectation of what they think, and then you do it, and they're like, no, that's not exactly what I was thinking. So do you basically do everything just from your own, or do you also do some things that people ask you to do? I think some people kind of put that to the side at some point and say, no, I'm not going to,
Yeah, that's a good point, because in the beginning, just getting started, of course, I was like saying yes to whatever, of course related really, but still they were like, oh, I kind of want this, I kind of want that. And I said, oh, I think I can do that. But now, luckily, I haven't really come into a place where somebody's asked me, to make really something out of the ordinary. I think if someone approaches me, they know at least the basics of what I've done, because social media is so great, everything's just out there. But and for the commissions that I'm doing, I really do try to check in with the client to make sure we're on the same page. And there's tweaks made here and there, but so far everyone that I've worked with has been really understanding of my style, and just says like, do your thing, which I'm so lucky for, because it's
you're established then at that point, you are established. You've come to that place, right? Yeah.
I'd like to think so, but there's always room for improvement, of course. But I'm happy that people, they come to me because they like my style, which is nice. Because otherwise, I really don't. I would like to experiment a little bit more. I have a lot of ideas, but I haven't had a lot of time. Luckily, because I've been making, pieces that are commissioned. But eventually, I do want to make a little bit of time to just further my own projects on the side, and maybe then another style will arise. But we'll see.
Yes, that's exciting.
So far, I still like kind of the clean, neutral look. So.
There couldn't be better timing for that either, because everything is very, that is just right now, too, which is really neat. But then you have the ability to change that with the glaze and the paint, like you said, which I think is just a really awesome way to be able to, display it either way.
Yeah, you're right. Like it can, in the end, I can tweak it, even if there's a little bit of color. Like sometimes I add color. It's like this big thing for me, But like gold, I'll add in some gold, or I think it was only once, which I actually really liked how it came out, but I added some pink just like drops over the top of one of my horses.
Yeah.
And it was, I was like, oh, this feels so crazy.
Way out there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the truth.
So,
yeah.
There's, sometimes once you have your style and you try something new, it can be the smallest thing, but
right.
Right. Yeah. It's still very, out there, but eventually I'll play around maybe with some glazes. This glazing is like a whole different talent, to be honest. Like when you see nicely glazed items, that takes a lot of talent.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're there. You're doing it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
This podcast is brought to you by Ram Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ram is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984. Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com. We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. Yourhorsefarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often.
I think I was 14, and I had made the junior championships, which was at Dressage at Devon that year. And I just was so thrilled. Obviously, that was really, really just the best experience at that time, or the best success that I had at that time. And so we went to Dressage at Devon. Have you been to Dressage at Devon?
Mm-mm.
It's definitely a place, if you have the chance, you should go. It's just a really special event. It's very personal. They have 2 arenas, but they have a main arena where I think it has maybe 3,000 to 5,000 seat capacity. So it's not huge, but it's big enough for sure. But it's also quite close to the ring, so you don't feel like you're watching from afar. And a lot of really wonderful riders go, and also up and coming riders. So it's a really nice place to get to see a lot of nice dressage. And they also have a really great vendor area. So it just kind of combines a nice weekend together. And Saturday night they do the musical curse. So that's really a nice thing to watch. Anyways, so that's the setting. And in this case, I went to compete, and we had 3 teams of 4. So we did a individual rankings. We also did a team class. And I felt like it was already a success to be there. I was just felt like a giddy schoolgirl just being able to ride here. And so even, if I came in last, I wouldn't have cared. I would have thought it was still just fun. So I remember this in the evening. It was an evening class, and I rode, and I had a great ride, but like I said, I wasn't really expecting it to be one of the better ones. And one of the last, I rode, we went up into the stands, and the stands were quite full then because it was a Saturday night. So everyone was getting ready for the musical freestyles afterwards. And my dad was standing at the ledge. He's, a show dad. So he's always like riding along with
yes.
with the in the arena next door. So he's up in the stands, and the last rider is going, and I'm watching from down below. I still have my boots on and my jacket and everything. And she ended up getting the same score as me. So we tied for first.
Wow.
And I was like, just didn't even, I just was completely didn't know what was going on. I just thought, wow, how did that happen, And so I'm running up to my dad. I run up the stands. I have my boots on, and I just am like grinning. Everyone around is, the stands are filled, and I run up the stairs and I tripped and I fell flat on my face. And I hit right at a huge just dig into my forehead. And my dad is like holding his breath, just wondering what's going to happen, because I just remember getting up, looking around, realizing like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me, because I was like, Dad, oh my God. And then I just hit the ground, metal bleachers in the face.
No. And you did all that writing and everything and never had anything. And then you go up the steps. Bless your heart.
Exactly.
Oh, bless your heart.
My dad said the same. And then he goes, I'm glad you can ride better than you can walk.
I love you.
Luckily,
you're so happy. You were so excited.
Laughing, but
that's a tough
so
one.
it was just a real like moment of excitement turns into just a total
Stop.
I totally stumbled over myself. So
well, congratulations on your good win.
Memory, but embarrassing. It was a really awesome weekend.
Well, thank you for that story. That's quite a big one. So that's a big thing to do. So in both ways, writing and what happened. So.
Gosh, I know. Here I was trying to celebrate, and all I can remember till this day is just falling flat on my face in front of a lot of people.
We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@ramfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.